The council chamber floated in space between the stars. It was made of crystal and light, ancient and beautiful. Inside, 200 different alien species sat together. They were all afraid. Kyle Morrison stood at the front of the room. He was Earth's ambassador, an old man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had come here expecting to talk about trade or peace treaties. Instead, the aliens were begging him to go home. "Please," said Thessera. She was a Valkyrie, a being made of silver light that flowed like water. "We know about the Kryn swarm. We know they are coming. We know they will kill us all. But we still don't want your help." Kyle felt confused and a little angry. "You're asking us to let you die? That doesn't make any sense." A crystalline alien named Vorath spoke next. His body was like living glass, and when he was afraid, colors moved through him. Right now he was showing a lot of colors. "We would rather die than see humanity fight again. Do you understand what we're saying? Death is better than your help." Behind Kyle, a young woman named Lauren Hayes sat quietly. She was his assistant, smart and quick. She whispered to him, "Sir, the Kryn have already destroyed 40 star systems. Billions are dead. If we don't do something, if you do something," Vorath interrupted, "you might save us from the swarm." "But then who will save us from you?" All around the chamber, aliens made sounds of agreement. Some clicked, some hummed, some made noises that the translation devices could barely handle. They all agreed on one thing. They were more afraid of humans than of the monsters eating their worlds. Kyle felt cold inside. He had read some old files before coming here, classified documents that most people on Earth never saw. He knew that something bad had happened long ago, but he didn't know it was this bad. "Tell me," he said quietly. "Tell me what we did that makes you choose death over our help." The room went silent. Then slowly they began to tell their stories. Commander Jaren Voss spoke first. He was from a water world called Thelia. His people looked like large fish that could walk on land. His voice came out flat through the translator, but Kyle could hear the pain underneath. "The harvesters came to my world 150 years ago," Jaren said. "They were machines that ate everything. Planets, ships, people, everything. We fought them for 3 months. We lost 40 billion people. Our fleet was almost destroyed. Then you came." Lauren pulled up old records on her computer. She found the files about Thelia. 2 human ships had gone there. One was called the Vigilant. The other was called the Dakota. "Your captain asked us one question," Jaren continued. "He asked if we wanted to win. We said yes. Of course we said yes. He told us to leave the system immediately. We didn't understand, but we left." Kyle watched Jaren's face as he spoke. The alien's eyes were full of old sadness. 24 hours later, we detected a huge energy burst from our sun. When we came back, the harvesters were gone. But so was everything else. Your people had turned our star into a weapon. They made it shoot out a wave of fire so big and so hot that it burned the harvesters out of our system. "We won," Jaren said, "but the fire also destroyed our orbital stations. It destroyed our moon colonies. It killed everyone on the day side of our planet. 3 billion more of my people died in those fires. Yes, we won. But at what cost?" Kyle felt sick. Lauren's face had gone pale. She whispered, "But they saved your species. The harvesters would have killed everyone." "They saved some of us," Jaren said. "That's true. But they also killed billions of us. And they never asked. They just did it." Thessera spoke next. Her light grew dimmer as she talked, like a candle going out. "The harvesters came to our world too. We are farmers, Ambassador Morrison. We grow food and we study life. We are not warriors. We could not fight the machines. Then humanity arrived. You saved us with a weapon that ate organic matter. It consumed the harvesters in days. It also consumed our forests, our crops, our animals. Most of the life on our planet died. Millions of my people starved after you saved us." More aliens spoke. Each had a story. Each story was worse than the last. Humans had dropped antimatter bombs on cities to kill harvesters hiding there. Humans had collapsed artificial wormholes with friendly ships still inside, trapping them forever in nowhere. Humans had released plagues that killed friend and enemy alike. On one world, humans had crashed a small planet into a harvester mothership. The impact destroyed the enemy, but it also destroyed the star system they were trying to protect. The humans won every battle, but the cost was terrible, worse than terrible. Sometimes it was almost as bad as losing would have been. We learned something about your species during that war, Thessera said softly. You don't fight to win. You fight to end the fight, and you don't care what you destroy to do it. You'll sacrifice anything, even the people you came to save. Kyle sat down. His legs felt weak. He had known the history was bad. He had read the files. But hearing it like this from the people who lived through it made it real in a way that reports never could. That was 150 years ago, he said. We've changed. We're not the same people anymore. That was our great-great-grandparents, not us. Prove it, Vorath said. Go home, let us fight the Kryn ourselves. If we die, at least we die clean. At least we die with our worlds intact and our honor preserved. We don't want to survive if survival means becoming like you. Kyle looked around the chamber. 200 species, all terrified of humanity. All choosing death over Earth's protection. He needed to talk to his government. He needed to send a message home. But he already knew what they would say. Humans didn't abandon people in trouble. That was both their greatest strength and their greatest curse. I'll send your message to Earth, Kyle said quietly. But I can't promise they'll listen. Humans have a hard time standing by while others die, even if those others hate us. That's what we're afraid of, Thessera said. You'll come anyway. You'll save us anyway. And you'll destroy us in the process, just like last time. The aliens talked for 6 hours. Kyle Morrison sat and listened to every word. Behind him, Lauren Hayes took notes, but her hands were shaking. She had grown up hearing stories about the Harvester War. Earth called it humanity's finest hour. The aliens called it something else entirely. After Jaren and Thessera finished, others came forward. A being that looked like living stone told about how humans had destroyed his people's sacred mountains to deny the harvesters shelter. A floating jellyfish creature described watching human ships fire on her world's evacuation centers because harvesters were using them as shields. Better to kill everyone than let the enemy have any advantage. We didn't understand humans then, the jellyfish said. Her name was impossible for humans to pronounce, so she went by the name she had chosen for herself, Miranda. We thought you were like us. We thought you would balance lives against lives, measure acceptable losses, try to minimize harm. We were wrong. Lauren found herself speaking without meaning to. What else could they do? The harvesters were going to kill everyone. Our ancestors made hard choices to save you. Miranda's tentacles waved in a pattern that the translator said meant sadness. Your ancestors made easy choices, young human. The hard choice would have been to save us without destroying us. The hard choice would have been to accept defeat rather than win at any cost. But humans don't think that way. You only understand total victory or total defeat. Nothing in between. An insect-like alien named Chorus spoke next. His people communicated by clicking their shells together. The harvesters came to our breeding worlds. Trillions of our young were in their cocoons, unable to move or defend themselves. Your Captain Walsh said he could save them. He said he had a plan. Kyle knew this story. It was in the files. The file called it a great success. Walsh deployed a sonic weapon, Chorus continued. It vibrated at a frequency that shattered the harvester's neural networks. Very clever. Very effective. It also vibrated at a frequency that shattered cocoons. Half of our young died, an entire generation gone. When we protested, Walsh said it was better than losing them all to the harvesters. As if that made it acceptable. Did it? Kyle asked quietly. Was it better? Chorus's shell rattled in anger. You're asking the wrong question, human. The question isn't whether it was better than the alternative. The question is whether your captain tried to find a different way. The answer is no. He saw a solution that would work and he used it. He never asked if there was a better solution. He never asked us what we wanted. He just did what humans always do. He decided our fate for us. More stories came. A bird-like species talked about how humans had poisoned their atmosphere to kill harvesters, making their world barely breathable for decades after. A crystalline race described watching humans detonate their moon to create a debris field that would slow the enemy advance. The debris also rained down on their planet for years, destroying cities and killing millions. Every battle was the same, said Vorath. Humans would arrive. Humans would win. And then humans would leave behind a world that barely recognized itself. You treated entire planets like they were acceptable losses in a game you were determined to win. Kyle felt anger rising in his chest. We saved the galaxy. Without us, the harvesters would have consumed everything. Every species here would be dead or scattered. We bled for you. Millions of humans died fighting those machines. And this is the thanks we get? The room went silent. Then Thesara spoke, her voice gentle but firm. You did save us, Ambassador Morrison. We don't deny that. But you also traumatized us. You showed us what you're capable of when you decide the ends justify the means. Do you know what happened after the war ended? Kyle didn't answer. The files hadn't covered much about the post-war period. Thesara continued. The galaxy held a secret vote. Every species agreed. Humanity would be quietly isolated. We would trade with you, yes. We would communicate with you, yes. But we would never again allow you to join a military conflict. We created the outer colonies as a buffer zone. We made sure that human ships had no reason to travel deep into galactic space. We contained you, Ambassador Morrison. Very politely, very diplomatically, but we contained you. You quarantined us, Lauren said, her voice small. Yes, Vorath agreed. We did. Because we were more afraid of you than we were of anything else in the galaxy. Until now, Kyle leaned forward. The Kryn swarm. That's what changed. They're so bad that you're willing to risk us again. No, Thesara corrected. The Kryn are so bad that some of us argued we should ask for your help. But the vote was close. Very close. Many of us would rather face the Kryn alone than watch humans fight again. Lauren pulled up data on her tablet. The Kryn have destroyed 40 systems in 6 months. Your fleets can't stop them. In another year, maybe 2, they'll have consumed half the galaxy. You need us. We know, said Miranda, her tentacles drooping. That's what makes this so terrible. We need the thing we fear most. Kyle stood up slowly. His back hurt from sitting so long. His head hurt from the stories. His heart hurt from the weight of human history. I need to send a report to Earth. They need to know what you've told me. They need to understand how you feel. Will it matter? Jaren asked. Humans don't listen very well. You do what you think is right, and the rest of us just have to accept it. Maybe, Kyle admitted, but maybe not. You're judging us based on who we were 150 years ago. You haven't given us a chance to show you who we are now. That's not fair either. Fair? Vorath's crystal body flashed red. You want to talk about fair? Was it fair when your people destroyed our library moon because harvesters were using it as a base? That moon held 10,000 years of our history, all gone. When we said we needed time to evacuate the records, your captain said there was no time. He said winning the battle was more important than preserving our culture. So he destroyed it. And now you want to talk about fair? Kyle had no answer for that. He gathered his things and left the chamber. Lauren followed him. They walked in silence back to their ship. Once inside, Kyle went straight to the communication room. He sat down at the console and stared at the blank screen. What could he say? How could he explain this to Earth? How could he tell his people that the galaxy saw them as monsters? Finally, he began to type. He wrote everything. Every story. Every accusation. Every moment of pain and fear that the aliens had shared. He wrote for 3 hours. When he finished, he read it over once and then sent it. The message would take 8 hours to reach Earth. Kyle went to his quarters and tried to sleep, but he couldn't. He kept seeing Vorath's flashing red anger. He kept hearing Miranda's sad words. He kept thinking about Captain Walsh and all the others who had fought in that war. They had thought they were heroes. The galaxy thought they were devils. Maybe both things were true. Maybe that was the most terrible thing of all. Kyle couldn't sleep. He lay in his quarters for 3 hours staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything the aliens had said. Finally, he gave up and went to the observation deck. It was empty except for one person. Lieutenant Connor Blake sat by the window looking out at the stars. He was the ship's tactical officer, a young man who had joined the military right out of college. When he saw Kyle, he nodded. Couldn't sleep either, sir? No, Kyle said, sitting down next to him. Did you know? About the war? About what we did? Connor nodded slowly. Yeah, everyone in the military knows. They show us all the files when we make officer. It's supposed to be a lesson. They call it the necessary evil doctrine. The idea that in some wars you have to do terrible things to win. That's a nice way of saying war crimes, Kyle said bitterly. Yeah, Connor agreed. It is, but the generals say those people did what they had to do. They say the harvesters would have killed everyone if we hadn't stopped them. They say the cost was worth it. Kyle looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Kryn swarm was eating its way through the galaxy. 40 systems gone. 200 billion people dead. And the swarm was getting faster. Could we stop them? The Kryn? Easy, Connor said. Task Force Sentinel is ready to deploy. That's 15 carriers, 200 support ships, and enough weapons to destroy a dozen star systems. We could launch in 3 days and have the Kryn running in a week, and prove everything the aliens said about us. Maybe, Connor said, or maybe we'd save trillions of lives. I don't know what the right answer is, sir. I'm just a tactical officer. I follow orders. They sat quietly for a while. Then Kyle's communicator beeped. Earth's reply had arrived faster than expected. They must have made the decision quickly. Kyle stood up. Come with me. You should hear this too. In the communication room, Kyle activated the hologram projector. Admiral Patricia Grant appeared. She was in her 60s with gray hair pulled back tight. Her face showed nothing. Ambassador Morrison, she said, the Security Council has reviewed your report. We've read every word. We've discussed it for hours, and we've made our decision. Kyle held his breath. Lauren had joined them, and she was gripping the edge of the table. Connor stood at attention. Earth will deploy Task Force Sentinel to fight the Kryn swarm, Patricia said. But we're going to do it differently this time. We will accept observers from every major alien species. They can watch everything we do. They can question our decisions. They can report back to their governments. We will try to limit civilian casualties. We will try to preserve alien worlds. We understand this might cost us battles. We understand we might take heavier losses. We accept that. Kyle felt relief and worry at the same time. Admiral, they don't want us there at all. They're not asking for oversight. They're asking us to stay home. Patricia's hard expression softened just a little. I know, Kyle, but we're not asking for their permission. We're doing what's right. Humanity made terrible choices 150 years ago. We can't undo those choices. We can't bring back the dead. We can't restore the destroyed worlds. But we can show the galaxy that we've learned. We can prove that we've changed. Tell the Council that we're coming whether they want us or not. And tell them that this time we'll do it the right way. The transmission ended. Kyle looked at Connor and Lauren. Well, Connor said quietly, I guess we're about to start a war that nobody wants us to fight. Kyle went back to the council chamber the next day. The aliens were still there, still discussing what to do about the Kryn. When Kyle walked in, the room went silent. You spoke to your leaders, Thesara said. It wasn't a question. Yes, Kyle said. Earth is sending Task Force Sentinel. They'll be here in 6 days. The room exploded. Aliens made sounds of anger, fear, and despair. Vorath's crystal body flashed so many colors that it hurt to look at him. We told you to stay away, he shouted. We told you we didn't want your help. Why don't you listen? Because we're human, Kyle said simply. We have a lot of faults. But one of our virtues is that we don't abandon people who need help, even when those people hate us. Virtues, Miranda said, her tentacles writhing. You call it a virtue to force your help on those who don't want it? That's not virtue. That's arrogance. Maybe, Kyle admitted. But it's who we are. However, there are conditions. Our fleet will accept observers from every species. You can watch everything we do. You can question every decision. If we break the rules of war, if we harm civilians unnecessarily, if we use weapons we shouldn't use, your observers can report it immediately. We're putting ourselves under your microscope. The aliens looked at each other. This was unexpected. Why would you do that? Jaren asked suspiciously. Oversight will slow you down. It will make you less effective. Yes, Kyle agreed. It will, but effectiveness isn't the goal anymore. Doing it right is the goal. Saving lives without destroying them is the goal. We understand that we might lose more ships this way. We understand that more humans might die. But that's the price of doing things properly. Thesara dimmed and then brightened, confused. You're willing to sacrifice your own people to preserve ours. That's what being a protector means, Kyle said. If you're not willing to pay a price for what you believe in, then you don't really believe in it. Humanity believes that all intelligent life has value. That includes you. That includes us. And that means we accept the cost of fighting clean. The council debated for hours. Kyle sat and waited. Finally, Vorath spoke for them all. We will send observers. We will watch everything you do. And if you repeat the mistakes of the past, if you show us that you haven't changed, we will unite against you. Every species here will become your enemy. Do you understand? We understand, Kyle said. And we accept those terms. Over the next 6 days, Kyle worked with the council to select observers. Each major species sent someone. The Velkari sent a soldier who had fought in the Harvester War. The Prions sent a scientist who specialized in ethics. The Thelians sent a young officer who had studied human military history. In total, 12 observers would board human ships and watch everything. On the morning of the 6th day, Task Force Sentinel arrived. Kyle watched from the observation deck as the human fleet came out of hyperspace. 15 massive carriers, each one 3 kilometers long, 200 smaller ships arranged in perfect formation. The fleet moved with precision and power, and Kyle felt a strange mix of pride and fear. This was humanity's strength. This was also humanity's danger. Admiral Nathan Cross commanded the fleet. He was young for an admiral, only 42. Earth had chosen him specifically because he represented the new generation. He had never fought in the Harvester War. He had studied it, learned from it, and vowed not to repeat it. Kyle met him in the Fleet Command Center. Nathan was tall and serious, with dark eyes that seemed to see everything. "Ambassador Morrison," he said, "are the observers ready?" "They're ready," Kyle said. "Admiral, they're terrified of us. Even with oversight, they expect us to revert to old habits the moment things get difficult." "Then we'll prove them wrong," Nathan said simply. "The fleet knows the rules. Protect civilians first. Minimize collateral damage. Fight clean even when it costs us. No exceptions. And if we start losing?" Nathan looked Kyle in the eyes. "Then we lose. But we lose with honor. That's the deal." Kyle watched as the observers boarded the human ships. They looked small and frightened, walking through corridors designed for humans. They looked lost in the massive warships, but they held their heads up and did their duty. The galaxy was giving humanity one more chance, just one. Kyle hoped desperately that they wouldn't waste it. Task Force Sentinel reached the Cathera system 6 days later. Kyle stood on the bridge of his ship, watching the tactical displays with growing horror. The Kryn swarm filled the screens like a nightmare made real. Thousands of biological ships, each one pulsing with strange life, moving toward Cathera Prime like locusts toward a field of grain. Cathera Prime was home to 8 billion Lorathi. The Lorathi were peaceful people who looked like tall birds with 4 arms. They had been trying to evacuate their world for weeks, but they didn't have enough ships. Millions were still on the surface, waiting for rescue that might never come. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Helen Park. She was the communications officer, a young woman with quick fingers and a sharp mind. "There are so many of them." Admiral Nathan Cross stood at the center of the bridge, calm and focused. "Get me a channel to the Lorathi Defense Command," he ordered. A face appeared on the screen. General Korath was a Lorathi with gray feathers and eyes that had seen too much death. When he saw Nathan's uniform, those eyes went wide with fear. "No," Korath said. "No, you cannot be here. We did not ask for human help." The council said. "General Korath," Nathan interrupted gently. "I know you didn't ask for us. I know what you've heard about humanity. I know you're afraid. But we're here and we're not leaving, so let's talk about how to save your people." "You will destroy half the planet to save the other half," Korath said bitterly. "That's what humans do. You'll use your terrible weapons and my world will burn, but you'll call it a victory because some of us survive." Nathan pulled up a tactical map. "Actually, I was thinking we would use precise strikes to draw the swarm away from your planet. Lead them into deep space where there's nothing to damage. Keep them busy while your people evacuate. But I need your help to make it work." Korath stared at him. "That's suicide. Your fleet will be surrounded. You'll be cut off." "Yes," Nathan agreed, "and we will. That's the price of doing this right." On the observation deck, Kyle watched the 3 alien observers carefully. Thesara was there, her silver light dim with worry. Forath had come too, his crystal body showing anxious colors. And a Thelian officer named Kress watched everything with suspicious eyes. They had been assigned to monitor the human fleet, to watch for any sign that humanity was reverting to its old ways. Right now, they just looked confused. "He's going to sacrifice his fleet to save civilians," Forath said quietly. "Why would he do that?" "He could win faster with aggressive tactics." "Maybe that's the point," Kyle said. "Maybe he's trying to show you that humans value your lives more than easy victories." The battle began at 8 in the morning, ship time. The human fleet split into 3 groups. Captain Amy Russell led the first group on a ship called the Ranger. Her squadron made fast strikes on the edge of the swarm, hitting hard and then pulling back before the Kryn could respond. Each strike was carefully calculated to kill as many enemies as possible, while releasing no radiation that might harm the planet below. "They're taking more damage than they need to," Thesara observed. "They could use plasma weapons and kill 3 times as many Kryn with each pass." "They could," Kyle agreed. "But plasma weapons would irradiate Cathera Prime's atmosphere. So they're not using them. The second group was led by Captain Luis Mendoza on the Valiant. His job was to protect the evacuation routes, to make sure the civilian transports could escape safely. When a group of Kryn broke through the defensive line, Luis moved his ship directly into their path. The Kryn tore into the Valiant's hull, ripping open decks and killing dozens of crew members. But Luis held position. He didn't use the antimatter missiles that could have vaporized the enemy in seconds. Those missiles would have caught the refugee ships in their blast. So he held position and let his ship take the damage, buying time for the civilians to escape. "This is insane," Kress muttered. "They're dying for efficiency. They could save themselves." "They're dying for principle," Kyle corrected quietly. The third group was Nathan's command squadron. They pushed deep into the swarm, drawing the majority of the Kryn away from the planet. Kyle watched the tactical display as the human ships took devastating damage. Hulls cracked. Shields failed. Ships spun out of control. But they held formation. They kept fighting. And they kept the Kryn away from Cathera Prime. 12 hours into the battle, something went wrong. The Dakota, one of the carriers, suffered a containment breach in its fusion reactor. Kyle knew that ship's name. It had fought in the Harvester War. It had helped destroy Thelia's settlements. Now it was dying. Captain Danny Martinez was in command. Kyle watched as the ship began to break apart. The reactor was going critical. In the old war, a captain in this position would have done one thing. He would have aimed his dying ship at the enemy and detonated the reactor. The explosion would destroy everything within 1,000 kilometers. Hundreds of Kryn ships would die. But so would dozens of Lorathi refugee transports that were fleeing through that area. "He's going to use it," Vorath said, his colors flashing alarm. "He's going to turn that ship into a bomb, just like in the old war." But Danny didn't do that. Instead, Kyle heard his voice on the fleet channel. "All hands, abandon ship. I repeat, abandon ship. Helm, give me everything you have. We're heading away from the civilians." The Dakota turned slowly, fighting against its damaged systems, and began to move away from both the refugee fleet and the planet. Escape pods shot out like seeds from a dying tree. The ship drifted into deep space, taking its captain and a skeleton crew with it. And then it exploded. The flash was bright enough to see from Cathera Prime, but it was far enough away that nothing else was damaged. Only the Dakota and its crew died. "He had a weapon," Thesara whispered. "He had a weapon that could have turned the battle, and he chose to throw it away." "He chose honor over victory," Kyle said. His voice was rough. He had watched good people die today. The battle continued for another 6 hours. By the time the last Lorathi transport escaped, Task Force Sentinel had lost 60 ships out of 200. 8,000 humans were dead. But Cathera Prime was safe. Its cities were undamaged. Its forests were still green. Its oceans were still clean. Not one civilian had died from human weapons. General Korath appeared on the screen again. His feathers were dirty and he looked exhausted, but he was alive. His people were alive. "Captain Martinez," he said. "The Dakota's captain, is he?" "Dead," Nathan said quietly. His uniform was torn and burned from a console explosion. He stayed with his ship to make sure it went in the right direction. Korath's eyes filled with tears. In his culture, crying was a sign of deep respect. "I don't understand your people. You could have saved yourselves. That reactor explosion could have killed so many of our enemies." "It would have," Nathan agreed, "but it also would have killed your refugees. And that's not acceptable. We came here to save you, General." "Not to save ourselves." Korath was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "Thank you. I was wrong about you. My people were wrong. We thought you hadn't changed. We were wrong." After the transmission ended, Nathan turned to look at the 3 alien observers. "Well," he asked, "did we pass your test?" Vorath's colors had shifted to something Kyle had never seen before, something soft and warm. "You fought with honor," the Prion said slowly. "You sacrificed your own people to preserve ours. This is not what we expected." "It's what you should have expected," Nathan said. "This is who humans are now. This is who we're trying to be. We made mistakes in the last war. Terrible mistakes. We won't repeat them." Kyle watched the survivors of the battle, wounded sailors being carried to medical bays, engineers working desperately to repair damaged ships, captains writing letters to the families of the dead. These were the people who had chosen honor over expediency. These were the people who had proved that humanity could change. He hoped it would be enough. 3 months passed. 3 months of battles, sacrifices, and hard-won victories. The Kryn swarm was retreating now, pushed back across 40 star systems by Task Force Sentinel and the alien fleets that had finally joined them. The cost had been high. Earth had lost 200 ships and 40,000 people, but every protected world was intact. Every civilian population was safe. Not one planet bore the scars of human weapons. Kyle Morrison stood once again in the Galactic Council chamber. But this time the atmosphere was different. The fear was gone. In its place was something Kyle hadn't expected. Something that felt almost like hope. Ambassador Morrison, Thessera began. Her silver light was bright and steady now, not dimmed by worry. The Council has completed its review of human conduct during the Kryn War. We have studied every battle. We have examined every decision. We have interviewed every witness. Kyle waited. His heart was beating fast. Behind him, Nathan stood in his dress uniform, medals on his chest for battles won and friends lost. Lauren was there too, taking notes like always. And the 3 observers who had watched everything stood nearby, ready to give their testimony. We were wrong, Thessera said simply. The council chamber went completely silent. We judged you by your worst moments. We imprisoned you in our memories of what you were. We didn't give you a chance to show us what you had become. For that we apologize. Vorath's crystal body chimed and the sound was beautiful. The Prion Collective wishes to formally apologize for our prejudice. We watched you fight. We watched you sacrifice. We watched you choose honor over easy victory again and again. You are not the humans who fought the Harvester War. You have evolved. One by one, the delegates spoke. Jaren of Thelia stood and said, You saved the Larathi the way we wished you had saved us. With care, with precision, with respect for life. Our children will learn about this war, and they will learn that people can change. Miranda floated forward, her tentacles moving in patterns of respect. You proved that strength and compassion can exist together. We didn't think that was possible. Thank you for showing us we were wrong. General Korath appeared on a screen, speaking from Cathera Prime. My people are alive because of your sacrifice. Captain Martinez and the crew of the Dakota gave their lives to save refugees they had never met. That is true heroism. That is what we will remember. When the speeches ended, Kyle took a deep breath. Thank you, all of you. But I need you to understand something important. We didn't change to prove you wrong. We changed because we were wrong. The people who fought the Harvester War thought they were doing the right thing. They were trying to save the galaxy, but they were so focused on winning that they forgot what they were trying to save. He looked around the chamber at all the different species. My generation learned from their mistakes. We learned that how you win matters as much as whether you win. We learned that the cost of victory can be too high. We learned that becoming a monster to fight monsters means everyone loses. We didn't fight the Kryn your way to earn your approval. We did it because it was the right way to fight. The only way we can live with ourselves. Nathan stepped forward. He was young to be speaking to this ancient council, but his voice was steady. The human military has adopted new rules. We call them the principles of necessary honor. They're simple. There are things we will not do, no matter what. We won't use weapons that cause unnecessary suffering. We won't sacrifice civilians for tactical advantage. We won't destroy what we're trying to protect, not because we can't, but because we shouldn't. Some prices are too high to pay, even for survival. And if you had lost? Jaren asked. If the Kryn had overwhelmed you because you refused to use your most powerful weapons? What then? Nathan met his eyes without blinking. Then we would have lost with our honor intact. We would have died as humans, not as the monsters the Harvester War turned us into. That's worth more than survival. The council chamber filled with sounds, clicks and hums and songs of approval in 100 different languages. Thessera spoke for them all. Humanity is no longer quarantined. The restrictions are lifted. You are welcomed back into the galactic community, not as the warriors we feared, but as the protectors we needed. You remembered the last war. You learned from it, and in doing so, you have taught us all something valuable. Kyle felt something break inside him. For 3 months, he had carried the weight of human history. For 3 months, he had wondered if they would fail again. Now, finally, that weight lifted. We will never forget what we did during the Harvester War, he said, his voice rough with emotion. We will teach every generation about those mistakes so we never repeat them. The past is part of who we are, but it doesn't have to define our future. That night, Kyle and Nathan shared a drink on the observation deck of the Defiant. They watched the stars together, two tired men who had carried too much responsibility. "Do you think we really changed?" Nathan asked. "Or did we just get lucky that doing the right thing worked out this time?" Kyle thought about the question for a long time. "I think we changed. But more than that, I think we learned humility. We learned that there are worse things than losing. We learned that the galaxy doesn't need humanity to be the strongest or the most ruthless. They need us to be trustworthy. And that's harder." "That's a hell of a responsibility," Nathan said quietly. "Yeah," Kyle agreed. "It is, but we owe them that much. We owe ourselves that much." Below them, in the ship's recreation area, Helen Park and Lauren were teaching a group of Lorathi officers how to play cards. They were laughing together like old friends. In the medical bay, Connor Blake was working with Velkari doctors to develop better trauma treatments. In the hangar, human engineers helped Prion technicians repair damaged ships. Everywhere Kyle looked, he saw humans and aliens working together, learning from each other, building something new. The galaxy had feared humanity's return. They had pleaded for Earth to stay home. They had chosen to face extinction rather than risk human help. But Earth had come anyway, and this time when they fought with honor. When they won cleanly. When they sacrificed themselves, not the people they came to save. The war wasn't over yet. The Kryn still controlled some systems. There were still battles to fight. But the galaxy knew now that humanity had changed. The old fear was fading, replaced by something new. Trust, respect, maybe even friendship given time. Kyle thought about Captain Martinez and the crew of the Dakota. He thought about all the humans who had died fighting clean instead of fighting easy. Their sacrifice had purchased something precious. A second chance. A new beginning. A future where humanity was known not for its brutality but for its honor. "We're going to have to work hard to maintain this," Nathan said, as if reading Kyle's thoughts. "One mistake, one commander who reverts to old tactics, and we could lose everything we've gained." "I know," Kyle said. "But I have faith in our people. We proved we can change. Now we just have to keep proving it. Every day, every battle, every decision. We have to choose honor over convenience. We have to choose compassion over efficiency. It won't be easy. Nothing worthwhile ever is," Nathan replied. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars. Somewhere out there, other species were telling stories about the Kryn War. Stories about the human fleet that fought with precision instead of power. Stories about captains who sacrificed themselves rather than harm civilians. Stories about a species that learned from its mistakes and became better for it. In a galaxy that had almost written humanity off as irredeemable, those stories mattered. They mattered more than any weapon, more than any battle, more than any victory. The galaxy had remembered the last war. They had pleaded for Earth not to return. Earth had returned anyway. And this time when the humans left, they left not as conquerors or destroyers, but as something better. They left as heroes who had earned their redemption through sacrifice and honor. Kyle raised his glass. "To second chances," he said. Nathan touched his glass to Kyle's. "To second chances," he agreed. "And to never needing a third." They drank together, two men who had helped change the course of human history. Below them, the ship hummed with life. Around them, the galaxy spun on. And ahead of them, the future waited, full of possibilities that hadn't existed 3 months ago. Humanity had a new reputation now. It would take years to fully earn the galaxy's trust. It would take constant effort to maintain the principles they had fought so hard to prove. But they had made a start. They had shown that change was possible. And sometimes Kyle thought that was the most important victory of all. The war had taught humanity many lessons. The most important one was simple. How you fight matters as much as whether you win. In learning that lesson, humanity had finally become worthy of the title they had always claimed for themselves. Protectors, guardians, heroes. Not because they were the strongest or the most ruthless, but because they had learned to be better than they were. And in the end, that made all the difference.